On June 23, 2018, 12 boys from the junior football team, Wild Boars, and their assistant coach, Ekafon Chanthawong, left practice for what seemed like a routine adventure. Their plan was to explore the Tam Luang Cave, a complex network of tunnels and chambers carved into the mountains of northern Thailand. The boys were excited, joking and laughing as they rode their bicycles toward the cave entrance. The sun hung low in the sky, unaware that it was about to witness a disaster that would grip the world. Unaware that the weather outside had gotten worse, the boys continued deeper into the cave. The day turned to evening, and when they failed to arrive at a birthday party, their parents began to worry. Concern grew when one of the boys' teammates explained that the group had gone exploring inside the Tam Luang Cave. One by one, they made their way to the cave. At the entrance, they found a scene that immediately sparked panic. 12 bicycles, scattered and abandoned. The parents shouted, their voices echoing into the tunnels, but the only response was the chilling silence of the cave. When the news reached authorities, the response was immediate. By 1 a.m., the Thai Navy SEALs were on site. Led by Captain Arnott, the team immediately assessed the danger. The cave was treacherous, its chambers partially flooded from recent heavy rainfall. Each step inside promised unseen hazards, swift currents, narrow passageways, and unpredictable drops. The SEALs, highly trained and experienced, prepared ropes, lighting, and diving equipment, ready to enter the cave. The gravity of the situation became immediately clear. This was not a simple search and rescue mission. Time was running against them. As the floodwaters continued to rise, and oxygen levels inside the cave could drop at any moment. A foreigner, Vernon Unsworth, who had spent years exploring the cave, offered his knowledge. He explained the layout, a labyrinth of narrow tunnels and sudden chambers, some large enough to offer temporary refuge, but most perilous and barely navigable. Without his guidance, navigating the cave would have been nearly impossible. Even the SEALs, used to extreme conditions, were battered and bruised as they attempted to advance. By dawn, they had only managed to cover about 800 meters of the cave's total 10-kilometer length. The realization hit hard. Finding the boys would not be easy. Outside, the boys' families oscillated between hope and despair. They watched as each team member returned from the cave, their clothing soaked, hands cut and scraped. The families clung to the glimmers of hope, yet could not ignore the terrifying truth. The children were trapped in a labyrinth, water rising, hours from any possible help. By the second day, the situation escalated to an international concern. As the number of volunteers increased, they contributed their knowledge, labor, and equipment. After researching the hydrology of the cave, engineers tried to use the strongest pumps they could find to remove the floodwaters. The operation turned into a race against nature itself. Every drop of water removed mattered, yet the relentless rain and hidden underground streams rendered their efforts almost useless. Even in these early hours, small acts of heroism began to emerge. Every volunteer, every SEAL, and every family member contributed in some way, driven by the urgent need to save the boys. Each decision carried weight, for a single misstep could endanger both rescuers and the children. The world had yet to witness the full scope of the crisis. At this moment, the Tam Luang Cave seemed like an impenetrable fortress, yet hope still lingered. The bravery of those who dared enter the darkness and the tireless efforts of those outside marked the beginning of what would become an extraordinary rescue operation. By the third day, the fate of the children and their coach remained uncertain. No one knew if they had found a safe spot inside the cave or if they were already trapped, struggling against rising waters and darkness. As the hours went by, international assistance arrived. The British Cave Rescue Council sent two of its most skilled divers, Rick Stanton and John Volanthen. Known for their ability to navigate flooded caves under extreme conditions, they were immediately briefed by the Thai SEALs and guided by Unsworth's knowledge. Without hesitation, the divers began the perilous journey into the water-filled tunnels, swimming through passages so narrow they could feel the walls pressing against their bodies. Murky water surged around them, pushing and pulling, threatening to trap them against jagged stalagmites. The current was also too powerful and overwhelming. After hours of struggling, they were forced to retreat, unable to find the team. They returned to the surface, exhausted and frustrated. The team realized that they have to wait for the rain to weaken to minimize risks. Days passed while they waited for the rain to finally stop and the cave's waters to progressively subside. They attempted to dive again on day 10. And this time they were able to go deeper than they had before. After hours of tense navigation, Stanton and Volanthen finally reached a large chamber approximately 4 kilometers from the entrance. Their flashlights cut through the murky water, and in that chilling darkness, they saw a sight that filled them with both relief and dread. The boys and their coach were alive. The biggest concern is now gone. However, it was extremely difficult to safely take out the boys. The SEALs, who are trained in extreme conditions, struggled when they attempted to dive. What more for these innocent little boys? They knew they couldn't take them out now, so they pulled out their camera to record them as proof that they found them and that they are safe. They went back outside and told the news, and as soon as they heard about it, they celebrated and applauded the 2 divers. But that moment didn't last long when they told the new problem that they had to face. They didn't know how to take them out safely. So in the meantime, the SEALs routinely went inside to provide food and oxygen to keep them alive. But during one of the supply missions, one diver, former Thai Navy SEAL Samon Kyunin, who was attempting to place oxygen tanks closer to the boys, got his diving equipment tied to a rope underwater and drowned. His death sent shockwaves through the team and the world, a sobering reminder of the danger of the mission. Yet his sacrifice strengthened the resolve of the rescuers. Outside the cave, volunteers worked tirelessly to manipulate the water levels. They realized pumping alone was not enough. Engineers discovered multiple streams feeding into the cave from higher up the mountain. Diverting these streams meant flooding nearby rice paddies, an impossible decision, yet one that had to be made to save the children. When the local farmers were approached, they understood the gravity of the choice. Their crops, the result of a year's hard labor, would be destroyed to give the boys a chance at life. They agreed without hesitation. Compassion outweighed despair. Their sacrifice became a vital lifeline in the operation, as torrents of water were redirected from the cave to the fields below. With international expertise and local cooperation, the rescue operation gained momentum. Every detail mattered. Divers calculated oxygen usage down to the minute, volunteers reinforced tunnels, and engineers improvised to keep water at bay. As days passed, the Thai Navy SEALs, British divers, and volunteers formed a coordinated, relentless team. The initial discovery of the boys brought hope, but extracting them remained a major challenge. The reality was clear: conventional rescue methods were impossible. The only feasible plan involved sedating the boys to allow them to be guided underwater by skilled divers, an approach packed with risk. Even a minor mistake could be fatal. The key to the operation was Australian anesthesiologist and skilled cave diver Dr. Richard Harris. He understood the magnitude of the task. Sedating children for an underwater journey of almost 4 kilometers was untested, dangerous, and morally difficult. One miscalculation could end in tragedy. Yet, the alternative, waiting for the floodwaters to recede, was even deadlier. Time was slipping away, and the boys' survival depended on immediate action. Preparations began with careful planning. Each diver was briefed, each route measured, and every piece of equipment checked repeatedly. Mock injections were practiced in water bottles to simulate administering anesthesia in zero-visibility conditions. Harris personally ensured every diver understood the critical balance between sedation and safety. On the night of the operation, divers entered the cave one by one. Passageways were tight, with sharp stalactites threatening to pierce wetsuits or equipment. The divers moved slowly toward the chamber where the boys were waiting. But the first challenge came up immediately. One boy, Chai, was too small for the standard mask. Mask improvisation was required, so they decided to take other ones for now. Harris prepared the anesthetic. The sedative was administered gradually. The boy's breathing was closely monitored. Once unconscious, he was secured with zip ties to prevent movement during the treacherous underwater journey. The first boy was transported. Divers relied entirely on guideline ropes to navigate. Hours passed. The first 4 children were successfully brought out. Outside, families remained unaware. The news was kept secret for now to prevent crowd attention. By the end of the first extraction, hope had strengthened, but tension remained. The mission was far from over. The remaining boys and their coach still awaited rescue, trapped in dark chambers deep underground. The divers entered again, following the guideline ropes into the dark, murky waters. Visibility was near zero, and the tunnels became increasingly narrower. Even experienced divers like Stanton and Volanthen had to be extra careful. One diver, Chris, encountered a sudden issue while guiding a boy through a particularly treacherous bend. The guideline slipped from his hands, and he was swept backward by a strong current. Fortunately, Chris managed to feel the cave floor with gloved hands, anchoring himself and the child to prevent them from being carried further. He slowly crawled until they reached a chamber. Meanwhile, Harris was monitoring the sedation closely on the victim he's carrying. He noticed that he was close to waking up while still underwater, which required Harris to improvise immediately, and fortunately, he solved the situation fast. As the divers progressed, oxygen level became a critical concern. Measurements showed dangerous drops, threatening the children's survival if the extraction took too long. To make matters worse, heavy rain outside continued to raise the underground water. Pumps labored constantly, but even the best equipment struggled against the relentless flow. Engineers and volunteers worked tirelessly to maintain water diversion, their efforts buying crucial time for the rescuers. Chai, the smallest child, again posed a challenge. His mask, despite careful modifications, did not fit perfectly, but they knew they had to take him out now. So a diver had to manually hold it underwater, ensuring a secure seal. Despite the dangers, progress continued. One by one, the boys were sedated, secured, and guided through the flooded tunnels. Each extraction took hours, draining the diver's strength. And finally, after hours of perilous swimming, all the boys and their coach reached the cave entrance, and they were immediately taken to the hospital. Families, volunteers, and officials erupted in emotional celebration as the last group came out. Cheers, tears, and embraces filled the air. After nearly 3 weeks of relentless struggle, the boys and their coach are finally safe. The divers, SEALs, doctors, and volunteers had orchestrated an impossible operation, one that would be remembered forever in the records of rescue history. The story of the Tam Luang Cave rescue was more than a tale of survival. It was a testament to human resilience, ingenuity, and the instinct to protect life at all costs. Teams from 17 countries, numbering over 5,000 volunteers, had contributed to the operation. Borders, languages, and cultural differences were irrelevant. The Tam Luang Cave rescue is a timeless testament to the extraordinary power of humanity united in purpose.